Hello and welcome to A Piece of Cake, Utah. My name is Katherine O'Donnell. I'm your host and I am here with a very special guest today. This is my daughter and she's going to introduce herself. What is your name?
Lillian Elizabeth O'Donnell.
Yes, and how old are you, Lillian Elizabeth O'Donnell?
4.
4 years old. I am very happy to have you with me today. And what are we going to do? Do you know what we're going to do? What are we going to show everybody how to do?
Do a cake.
Do a cake, yes. What are we going to do with this small cake?
We're going to put it on top of your big cake.
Yes, we're going to teach you a little bit of stacking today. So first, the first thing that you need to know about stacking a cake is to prepare the pieces of your cake. So the first thing you want to do is put your bottom tier, of course, on your little plate, your cake plate or your board or whatever you're going to do it on. And then the smaller one here that Lily's pointing out to us is also on a cake board, but it's been put on a special one. I have a couple examples right here. These are called tough boards. They are really fun to use. There's all different sizes. You can find them at Hobby Lobby or online. And they're very inexpensive, but they're kind of like cardboard, but they're washable, reusable, really great. I really like using these a lot. And so a lot of times when I'm stacking a cake, I will use those boards because you're going to be taking your top tier off of the board that it's on and you want it to release very easily, and so it comes off of these tough boards really nicely. The other option that you can do if you have just a regular cake board, you'll want to make sure that it's bigger, obviously, than your tier that you're going to be putting on there. And then you're just going to take some wax paper. And Lily, can you help me? Can you take off some pieces of tape for me? And we are going to tape the wax paper onto the board here. Can you get that off?
Yes.
Almost. Here we go. Okay, you hold on to that piece while I get the other one.
So I'll have to give you them.
Yes, you will give them to me. So we're going to tape down one side. Just make sure it sticks. Yep. Okay, and then can I have the last piece? Thank you. So we've got our, oops, there we go. We've got our wax paper taped down. You can tape down more of the sides if you want to, if you feel more comfortable with that, just so they're not waving around and getting in the way. And then you would put your cake tier on top of this before it's iced. So you put it on here. You're also going to use a regular cake board that it's always on. So you're going to put your cake board on top of this prepared board and then put your cake tiers on top and start icing it and everything. Yep, and we're going to be putting these colors on there too, huh? So after you get that all prepared and iced, you'll want to put it in the refrigerator. And for these cakes, I've covered them in fondant. And fondant is really easy to use when you're transferring cake tiers because then you don't have to worry about the icing getting too sticky and sticking to your hands as you're transferring it. But you can also do it with buttercream. It works out really well. The buttercream recipe that I use, I actually use a real buttercream icing recipe. And so the butter, of course, gets stiff and hard in the refrigerator. And so when you lift it, you don't have to worry about it getting too soft and sticking to your hands or anything like that. Are you helping explain all that too? Okay. So after we've got our cake completely iced and all ready to go, one really important thing that you want to make sure when stacking your cakes is that they are completely level, especially the bottom tier. If you stack a cake on an unlevel surface, it's going to show some gaps maybe at the bottom. It'll make the top tier look kind of just odd and offset and just not quite right. So one really fun technique that I use to make sure my cakes are level is, first of all, I take my little ruler and I'm going to measure my cake here, and it's about 3.5 inches tall, which is a really good size. And then I cut a piece of cardstock, which of course, you know, after a while it can stick to the icing. Where's my helper? Come back here. So it can stick to the icing after a while. Paper usually doesn't work as well as the cardstock, so I like using the cardstock because it can have a couple of uses. Come here, Lily, and hold this on here for me. Thank you. So she's going to hold that. And so normally I would put this up against the side of the cake, and then I would take my piping bag of icing and I would fill in the top, and then you can take your spatula, and I forgot my spatula here, but you'll just take your spatula and smooth it across using this piece of cardstock as your guide. And that way you know that all the way around your cake is going to be 3.5 inches tall, and then you can cover it with your fondant and it works out really good. Does it look good, Lily? Does it look level? Good. The other little fun thing that you can use, and I didn't bring mine with me today, but I have a little level that's just the same size. And so I put my level on top here and make sure that it's nice and level. And you know, it's kind of fun. My husband bought me my own little tool kit so I can have all those little things with me. Come on up here. You need to stay up here with me, okay, so everybody can see you help me. Okay, so now we know that it's 3.5 inches tall. So the next thing we're going to do, here, you hold this, and I'm going to hold this one. There are some different things that you can use in your cake to make them sturdy. Don't put it in there just yet. To make them sturdy enough so that you can stack other cakes on top of there. Normally, you can just use some wooden dowels, which I'm sure you've seen everywhere. You can also use, these are, hold it up really nice so everyone can see. These are called bubble tea straws. And these ones are very large around. They've got a nice good width to them. They're very thick, but they're also easy to cut through. And so normally when I have a very large cake, like a wedding cake or something like that, I want to have lots of stability. These dowels, they aren't very thick. And so I like to use the bubble tea straws because I can cut through them easily and make sure they're all the same size and put them in my cakes. And I've got a little more width to them that holds up the cake on top. So especially if I have a lot of tiers, like 5 or 6 tiers, it works out really great.
Now what do I have to do?
Okay, now we're going to measure these and we're going to put them inside of our cake. Since we just have one tier that we're working on today, we're just going to use our little wooden dowels. But if we had 3 or 4 or something like that, we could use our bubble tea straws. The other reason why I don't like to use these for smaller cakes is because, as you can see, the straw is hollow. And so when you put it into the cake, it often takes some of the cake with it. And so when you remove them, you lose some of that yummy cake. And I just don't like to lose any of the cake. So we are going to mark this. Lily, can you take this pen? And we're going to mark this here, right here.
Okay, so I'll mark it?
Yes, you're going to mark with this pen right here on the 3.5 mark. Can you put a line right there? Yep, just right there on the stick. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple more sticks, and I need you to mark them, okay? So there's one. Yep, you can stand up on your stool. Right here, right where my finger is. Put a line right there. Perfect. Oops. I moved it, huh? Right there. Excellent. Okay, and then we'll actually measure the other side of this. Right there, right where my finger is. Can you see where my finger is? Perfect. Okay. And if you're ever hesitant about, you want to use something non-toxic, like a pencil or a pen, you can also use your edible food markers to mark these sticks and everything, which works out really good. I normally cut just underneath the mark so I don't have to worry about that. Okay, and then I bought some garden shears that I use just for my cake decorating items, especially for cutting these, which works out really good. And we're going to cut these. Now you hold on to this side so it doesn't fly off away from me, okay? And I'm going to cut that. There's one. Perfect. Don't put it in just yet. We're going to cut them all first, and then we'll put them in there, okay? So you put that one down right there. Thank you. Okay, hold it really tight. Oh. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to cut this one. And normally the rule of thumb that I follow for how many of these dowels to cut is kind of the number of tiers that I have times 2. So, if I just have one tier, I really don't need that many, usually about 3 or 4, which does not follow my rule of how many tiers you have times 2. But kind of, I have 2 tiers, and so times 2 would be 4. So we'll do 4. And one more on that side. You ready? Hold it still. Perfect. Okay.
Now we're going to cut this
Awesome.
one.
Nope, we just have these wooden dowels that we're going to cut.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
Now you want to make sure that all the little pieces that are hanging off of here are not hanging off, because you're going to stick this into your cake. And if you're ever worried, you can always take a little pencil sharpener that you've used just for your cake items, and you can sharpen the edges so that you don't have any little pieces that are hanging off of here, little slivers that could get into your cake. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do, can you put this on top of the cake? Oh, let me show them really quick. This is a 6-inch cake board, and our top tier is 6 inches. So we're going to put this on top to do our measuring, okay? Can you hold that there? Let's move it over a little bit. Okay. And then I'm just going to take my little paintbrush here, the hard tip edge of it, and I'm just going to run it around. Thank you, Lily. So I make a little mark here, a little indentation of how big around this is. And that gives me a little marker there so I can put my dowels inside of there and know that they'll be covered up by our cake. Okay, you ready to put these in? Okay. So I'm sure you've seen on TV people stacking cakes, and they kind of put it on top and whip their hands away, and sometimes they'll just gouge and catch the very bottom of the cake, and it kind of rips it off, and it just puts your finger indentations on there, and it looks really difficult and hard. And I'm going to teach you how to do it so you don't have to worry about that. So we're going to stick our sticks in here, but we're only going to put them about halfway, right there, Lily. Okay, let's put this one in. Push it down about halfway. There we go. Oops, right there. We'll put that one in, push it down about halfway. Very good. And then, you know what? I think 3 is going to do it, so we'll just stay
no,
with
let's
3.
just have 4 right here.
You want to have a 4th one? Okay,
Yeah.
we'll do a 4th one. So push it down just about halfway. Okay. Now we're going to take this off.
So
And we've had it in our refrigerator, so the bottom, hold on, Lily. The bottom comes off really nicely. Okay, so you ready? Put your hands underneath it like mine. Okay, and we're going to put this down here. Okay, let go. And it just stays on there, oops, very nicely, and slowly goes down. And you just got to push it down a little bit so that it goes down all the way. And now you've been able to put your cake on there without having to whip your hands off. Okay, let's stop spinning. Thank you.
Okay, now
Yes, now we're going to decorate it. So you've been able to take your hands off without having to whip them away. You haven't damaged the sides or the bottom pieces at all. And then you can also push down gently on top of it to make sure all the dowels have gone through and everything. Works out perfectly every time. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take one of these larger ones and we're going to stick it all the way through to make sure that our tiers are steady and sturdy together, okay? Now first, what I would do is I would sharpen this little edge right here with my sharpener that I use just for my cake decorating. It helps to be able to pierce through the little cardboard round that your cake is on top of. So I actually did not bring that today, so I'm just going to clip off a little bit with my shears here, and it works out really great. Okay, you ready for this, Lily? We're going to stick this all the way through. Okay, and so once we get to that board, we're just going to wiggle it a little bit to get it all the way through. And there's a little popping noise. Tells me I'm through part of it. And even if you need to, sometimes you can take a hammer or like the edge of your shears and poke it through. You just want to be careful about putting too much pressure on it so it doesn't damage the cake underneath it, or, you know, if it goes down through, you're going to smash into the top part of your cake here. So I'm just going to gently work this through. Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. Went through. So now we know where the top of this is. I'm going to take it out just a little bit here. And luckily this is a red velvet cake, and so I can see where the top of the cake is coming to. And I can clip that off. There we go. Thank you. and then push that down through, and you can actually take the little piece that you just clipped off and use that to help push it all the way through. And I clipped it off underneath where it was going to come to the top. There's a little hole in there, and you can just take your fondant, your decorating stuff, whatever you're doing, some icing, and fill up that hole and just cover it up really nicely. It works out really, really great. Okay, so we are going to get ready to decorate this fun little cake here, and so we'll be back in a minute with some of our decorations.
What's the sticker?